I wouldn't say completely wasted, but everything that is designed, then it needs to be rebuilt the moment you want to implement a technology like BIM, which for me is what is the biggest paradox is if this technology is supposed to help you, why you need to do things twice?
Hello friends, welcome back to BIMvoice. Today I have the pleasure to talk to Eugenio Fontan, who is going to talk about OpenBIM and technology. Hello Eugenio, happy to talk to you.
Hi Petru, very happy to talk to you as well.
Cool, tell us a few words about yourself. Let's start with that.
Okay, good. So, well, I'm an architect myself. I work as an architect for many years especially outside my hometown, which is Madrid in Spain. I'm actually now currently living in Hong Kong. It's where I've been living for a bit more than 10 years. I practice as an architect here in Southeast Asia and Middle East, and also for a while in Europe, in UK actually. And well, as you and I think everyone probably watching these recordings, these interviews, I've been always very passionate and but also I will say concerned with the process of how we develop projects. So I think that's how I got kind of engaged with BIM technology and very focused on it. And yeah, trying to understand it, trying to implement it, trying to bring it forward as much as I could in every project I was involved. And yeah, currently, well, as we were discussing before, I'm working in one firm, architecture firm called Ensign, that I started in Hong Kong around 8 years ago. Actually, I was working for a while. I decided to take let's say a bit of a time outside my own company, outside Ensign, because throughout the work I've been doing at Ensign since we started the company, we were very involved with the use of BIM. So we were not only doing projects of architecture and master planning, interior or whatever, we were also implementing BIM in other companies. Implementing the sense of trying to implement a workflow that was focused on architects, right? In trying to make the work more efficient by using BIM, but not only, learn it and just don't get stuck with it, but trying to really make the work faster, smoother, more precise, connect with other technologies like computational design, real-time renderings, things like that. And throughout that process, I ended up actually working for a BIM software vendor, which is Graphisoft. So I was working for a couple of years because, we were, at some point, we become kind of champions, used to call, because we were always using ArchiCAD. That was our BIM solution of choice. So, we were collaborating very closely at some point. I helped them to promote from the technical point of view, the use of their BIM solutions in East Asia. So yeah, that was my last experience for a while. And now I just came back to work with my own company for good, trying to practice more as an architect, which is something that I haven't done in the last 2 years. It's something that I really missed. So yeah, that's I think a bit where I find myself now.
That's cool. You said something that helped companies implementing a BIM strategy. Are you talking about only other architectural companies, or were there any other kind of companies?
There were also, for example, construction companies. We work with a big construction company in Japan that they also do design and build, which is actually, I think, the business that they would really like to have, where they're involved through the whole process. But they're basically a construction company that they're actually 400 years of history. So it's it's been really an incredible honor to collaborate with them because it's amazing the work they do, from restoration of really old temples in Japan to stadiums and really incredible projects. So the implementation was always focused. We were trying always to focus on the design perspective, meaning that probably you're aware, but it feels like still in our industry, design and BIM, designers and BIM capable people are still feel like things that are separate. Things that are not going hand to hand, and even feels like we are different people. So what we always wanted to demonstrate, wanted to prove and promote, and also in this implementation, is that we don't believe that's the way it should be. We believe that BIM should and it can really help the designer. It can really help the design. It can really boost the whole process if it's really implemented from the beginning. So that's why, even if it was a construction company, we were engaged because they said, we have like many teams, right? We have a strong BIM's, let's say, system in place after the design is done. But basically, after the design is done, we need to redo everything. We need to rebuild everything. We need to rethink everything. We need to bring everyone, and it simply doesn't make sense to repeat the whole thing. And that's where we came into place and where we started working. And it's actually what has been our, let's say, our flag for a long time. Not only with BIM, all the technologies I said, but it's always to say, look, good design and great freedom of design and the capabilities of a designer, they are not confronting with the idea of using technologies like BIM. It's something that I think we still get it wrong. So yeah.
So you are saying that actually you touched upon that issue that the designers are doing something that the contractors actually are not using, right? And they need to redesign everything. Did I understand this correctly?
Yes. What I also see happening is that already inside architecture firms, okay, even internally there way before going into construction or when the contractors are involved, it already happens that, the early stage of design are basically, I wouldn't say completely wasted, but everything that is designed, then it needs to be rebuilt the moment you want to implement a technology like BIM, which for me is what is the biggest paradox is, if this technology is supposed to help you, why you need to do things twice? It's something that I think we still get wrong. And that's been always, a bit, I think, my obsession, really, to understand it's a good technology. Of course, there are tools that are better for certain stages or certain, let's say, professionals. But in my case, I believe that it has made me more competitive and more flexible, being able to use BIM in the right way from the early stage.
Yeah. I think that's the main challenge here, putting everyone together in the same room and plan in a way that they can work together and actually communicate and not just design in their own silos or work in their silos, right? And I think this is an important challenge because otherwise you cannot use BIM if you're just working without asking other parties about what they're doing. And I'm happy to see changes here. And on the project I work and around me in Norway like this, people have started to realize the importance of this, that the client and the contractor needs to be involved earlier on. So we end up with models that can be used to build after and for later stages for as built and maintenance and operation. Yeah, interesting. Are you a one-man show or do you have any employees?
No, yeah, we are actually, I would say, depends who you compare us. We are a small, medium-sized team. Actually, I mean, I can also share with you some, let me just, if I can share my screen, just to show the landscape of our website. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Our website, and as you can see, we have design studio and digital solutions. So I think in this sense, maybe it's more relevant, apart from what we do as designers, how we do as digital implementators. As I was saying, you were talking about the size of our team. I mean, I think we're a small company, but we are spread in different locations. Okay, we have a team of around 10 people in Hong Kong. We have a small office in Singapore, and then we have a few freelance in Middle East and Europe. I think all together, we are around less than 20. I mean, I don't know exactly, the numbers by heart.
No, but it's fine. It's actually much bigger, larger than I thought, because I thought you were alone. But so you have at least 10 people only in Singapore. Do you have like a common shared office, or everyone is working remote?
No, in Hong Kong, everyone is working. I mean, everyone is working from the office or remotely. That's more like a choice. Okay, so that's as we are quite flexible. Then, of course, in Singapore, we don't have an office, so everyone is working from home or a co-working space. Since again, we don't have an office there. And then everyone else working from Europe and Middle East, they are working from home. That's currently the arrangement, but it works quite well. I mean, it works well because at the end of the day, I don't know, I think also, as you know, right, COVID was really, how do you say, pushing everyone to be more flexible. So in that sense, for us was not a big switch, because we always had to keep it very flexible, and we were small at the beginning, so it went quite natural. And now this is, I think, the situation of many companies.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That sounds like a company somebody would like to work in. Like when their director and founder, it's embracing the new way of working in these times. So yeah, that's cool. You did not touch something. Browsing your LinkedIn profile, I see that you also worked for Ziggurat. You had some courses. You held some courses at Ziggurat as well. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that was we were teaching me and the friend, let's say the other founder of Fensen. We were approached by Ziggurat to work on the BIM master that we have. We did editions 2019, 20, and I think 21 I was not involved anymore. I was only for 2 years in the English and Spanish version. We were basically teaching the main BIM solutions they were teaching was Revit, ArchiCAD, Tekla, I think some others, and then they had, of course, a great deal in the OpenBIM CD and other parts. So we were basically teaching ArchiCAD and also all the part that let's say that every tool teacher should also explain really well the interoperability with other BIM tools, but also other technologies. So at some point we touched other connections like as I was saying, computational design, render engines, and things like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Is this a school that are many people attending to it? I have no idea, no information about this.
I think it's quite one of the most important online BIM masters that are recognized internationally. I know that because, when I started, I don't know if there was a lot of people. There are a lot of students, but I keep seeing more and more actually students that we had that are in very relevant positions. Even it happens to us that me and my colleague George, we were approached by students that they were asking us if we wanted to work in their current company, which is very funny because they made it to big places, and it was like, wow. No, really, like incredible, like how some people really learn fast, and that's really actually really inspiring. But yeah, I keep seeing also, Ziggurat also is not only about BIM, but they're really touching a lot of disciplines from the construction, about, structural calculations, construction in timber. So yeah, I think they're doing a lot of things.
How are your workflows? What can you tell me about your workflows? Are closed workflows, or do you employ IFC to any degree?
Well, in the case of OpenBIM, okay, first let me share that in this region, Southeast Asia, OpenBIM, it's in a very, very early stage. Okay, except exceptions, Hong Kong, for example, the last years is promoting OpenBIM from the institutions very strongly. There are very good case studies. Actually, if you saw the international summit of the Business Smart Awards the last year, there were a few winners from Hong Kong, very impressive work. But I will say that Singapore, and some beautiful exceptions, OpenBIM in Asia doesn't really, I wouldn't say it doesn't exist, but a lot of people still, a lot of our clients still, when we talk about IFC, they're like, sorry, what are you talking about? So I would say that we have been more than we have been pushing, trying to push it through as much as possible, sometimes not with a lot of luck. Because unfortunately for me, I think it's a sad situation. Still, a lot of people understand what is Revit, and they think that's it. And for me, that's a big, I think that's a big drama for our industry, because that's unfortunately making us stay behind in many aspects. People don't understand the technology, don't understand the process, and don't understand that it's not that I buy a software and that's it. It's way more than that. So we have been also always promoting it. We have actually in the website, I didn't show it. We have a blog that we haven't written in a while. But this blog, of course, is about promoting our workflows, which are with ArchiCAD, right? If you see the blog, from our website, it's always promoting the openness of technology. In this case, OpenBIM is where you can really bring BIM to everywhere, in your workflow, and you can really, let's say, I would say, conquer or embrace all the technologies, right? Not just staying with one tool and think that you're done with that.
But if you are using ArchiCAD, if I understand this correctly, in your company, you are mostly use ArchiCAD, or are you using Revit too? Use both of them?
No, internally, we only use ArchiCAD.
Okay, then how do you collaborate with other companies then who are using Revit or other tools? What is the...
Yeah, so we fight strongly, and I would say that we have been successful in our projects to say, okay, I mean, first you need to have the trust of the client, right? But there's a moment where you say, look, we don't work in Revit, simple as that. We don't produce those deliverables. We produce OpenBIM deliverables, which we can explain to you what is IFC, how you can make the, get all the advantages of it. We can also prove why our workflow is really good with ArchiCAD. And then it's a matter to really try to basically promote it. I mean, sometimes can be in the past. I believe in the past. I'm sure that in the past we have lost projects because of that. But I think we're doing the right thing. And in some projects, it really made us be successful because once the other stakeholders and the contractors are comfortable with it, the client starts to, be more comfortable as well, seeing that, okay, everyone is in the same point, in the same conversation. And then once people get used to, work with IFC and other, and implement these mechanisms and have a BIM execution plan, have a common agreement, then it's fantastic. I think that it has been also for them, people that, maybe were more, they wouldn't believe it, they were more reluctant. It has been really good. And in our case, it has also been very, very useful. The fact that, in particular, ArchiCAD has a very quick and fast and easy way to IFC. Let's say that it's made in a way that is super easy to exchange your data and make it proper and make it reliable and being able for you to make it, as good as possible. So sometimes, in some projects, the fact that we could export IFC in an incredible fast, I would say like daily basis, non-stop for the consultants, it was really crucial.
Cool. So there are more things popping into my mind right now. So even if OpenBIM and IFC is not so popular there, you are enforcing IFC upon your clients. But how do you ensure that, for example, if you work with other parties that are using Revit, there is no loss of data? Because that can be an issue, right? Because the fact that they should be able to harness all the data that you create, right? Does that go only through via IFC, or is there any interoperability between ArchiCAD and Revit directly?
Yeah, there is direct interoperability, but ArchiCAD can directly save us Revit. You can, but the model you get is basically big piece of geometry with certain data, which has a structure, but it is not agreed upon anything. Like OpenBIM is not only about IFC, but it's a model, but it's also that the data is common. That's the main point, right? So that is a quick way out for certain things, but even Revit users find that they cannot do much with that. They just need, anyway, the principle of OpenBIM is that eventually they need to take what I do as a reference and do their own part. That is already a barrier. But apart from that direct shortcut, which I think is, it's not really, let's say, it's not going to solve any problem that IFC cannot solve. There usually are two scenarios. The scenario one is when we exchange IFCs, and of course you could tell as the project evolves that there has been an incredible loss of data. But then you realize that throughout the whole process before construction starts, as long as the very, very, very basic data goes through, you don't need much. What I mean is that for coordination, as long as everything has, let's say, the right IFC type, basically a column is a column, cladding, things like that. As long as the basics are there, you can do almost all the coordination up to a very detailed stage, because it's about identifying what is everything, physical clashes, then non-physical clashes, then start to understand interfaces and things like that. You don't need much for that. The moment you want to take an IFC and do quantification, okay, that's a different story, okay? But even there, you can do a lot of things. Everything has just the right identification in terms of what it is, A lot of things can done. So that's scenario. And then there's another scenario where you collaborate with companies and then say, the architects use BIM. Well, we are the super mega hyper BIM experts of the planet. We are much better than the architects. And then usually they make an effort and they really, really, it's very positive. And then the exchange of data is very good. Let's say that they do their homework And then there's a real conversation. I'm not saying that we do everything perfect, but then there's a conversation where they say, okay, Mr. Architect, I would prefer if we do this in this way. Let's exchange data in this manner. Let's set up these processes. And, that's like fantastic, but that's very, very rare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, you are right, because I made a mistake, because I think the bigger challenge could be if you would work with other architects who are using Revit. Because in that case, if it's just the structural engineers and MEP engineers, then they just can use your IFC models as a reference. They don't need to remodel. They don't need to do anything, right? So as long as you don't need that data to share it with other architects, it's fine. It should not be a problem. Are you using IFC 2x3 or IFC 4?
Mostly 2x3, but we, as I said, we try to always arrive and saying, it's IFC 4, this is how we do it, this is, anyway, all the setup. And then there's usually that, a second conversation of, why don't we try to use 2x3 since, and then often we have to let's say, to change the skin, change the version of the IC basically, and then working that way. But it's because, as I said, in my experience, even the 2x3, as long as you have the basics well, there is a lot of things that can be done. Actually, this is one of the things I remember when we spoke about the interview at the beginning. I think for me, the message is that BIM is not only for mega experts. It's not that complicated. Just get the basics right. You already can do a lot of things, and it gives you freedom to then say, we collaborate with all the possibilities that technology offer with anyone. So that's why sometimes, on these BIM forums and in LinkedIn, I love to get into the details and the schemas and blah, blah, blah. But there's a moment that's like, guys, just get it done. You know what I mean? Like, again, I'm a designer, right? I also want to have the freedom to just design quickly, get a few basics on my templates, things that I know that are going to go smoothly towards anyone, and work like that. Because otherwise, if we keep making BIM something that is only for experts, then the industry says, we don't need BIM, we just work in CAD. And man, that's when everything dies. It's like, why to invest in technology at all, right? In some countries, BIM is the past. Like, we've moved past that. In some is the present, and in some is like, BIM, no, we don't need it. So it's not, anyway, it's not only for super experts.
Yes. But sometimes, I understand it's important for people to embrace the new standard, which is, IFC 2x3 is not so new. That's one thing, and the main reason for promoting IFC 4 is because, it's the newer version. You have more flexibility, but at the same time, if it's a challenge and if you think it's too complicated, just start with 2x3 and then you will learn how to go for 4 as well. Because sometimes, most of the time, I experience that consultants are very comfortable with 2x3 and they just don't want to invest time to see what do I lose if I go to IFC 4, So there is also that, because it's also, I would argue, a little investment of time, and then you see. But there are also other limitations. If you don't have other limitations, like for example, if the client really required you 2x3, or if you use some platforms that cannot support IFC 4, there are different situations, right? So that's a choice. But as long as you start using it, it's fine. But you come to a point now when we will get more platforms supporting IFC 4.3, then you get so much more improvement that you actually it does not really make any sense to keep using an older technology, right? Even if it will take you a few days to just make the upgrade in learning, right? But sometimes a reason can be I work on larger projects. These projects takes between 5 and 10 years to finish, right? You started the contract with 2x3, then you need to finish it in that way, right? That can also be a case. But at the end of the day, I think we should look at this open-minded, of course, and it's important to try to implement it no matter what. But I'm wondering about something else. When it comes to ArchiCAD supports IFC 4 also, right? Is there any complexity level added on top of IFC 2x3? Is more complicated to export to IFC 4, or it's not so much difference?
Not really. You need to understand a bit the schema a bit better, but it gives you, for example, the first thing you realize that you have more options for mapping classifications. In ArchiCAD you classify things. And then there's a mapping that actually is it's already set up. So you just can use the standard templates, and it's already mapped perfectly to the schema in terms of types. And then automatically, when something has a type, by default has the property sets and things like that. So you have basically more options to give more granularity to the definitions of things. It's not only covering or finish, it's more than that. It's like, you're going to cladding, you're going to other things that are more detailed. And also then the granularity of data, of course, give you more options. It's not more complicated. It's like if they give you the option to put more information if you want. If you don't want, you ignore it. But in that sense, as I said, these translators that ArchiCAD has are great because they are set up there, and then you just need to work with it. It's really, really easy. And in that sense, I also want to add, I mean, apart from the OpenBIM itself as a technology, I want to make, mention that it's not only about the technology itself. I mean, BIM doesn't finish in BIM, right? You were asking which tools we use. We use ArchiCAD as a BIM tool, but we use SolidBrick because sometimes we really need to have a really great responsibility in the coordination. But we use tools that have nothing to do, that make our projects better. For example, Rhinoceros and Grasshopper, to make really challenging designs. And in that sense, ArchiCAD becomes like the vehicle. Okay, so we can do really cool stuff in design, but instead of just leave it there and have someone to rebuild it, you bring that into ArchiCAD through live connections that it has. And then everything that you design can have like a shortcut to OpenBIM, which then becomes available for, someone that is doing, facility management, for example, which had happened before. I mean, in our case, they're already involved and they can use that data. So again, for me, it's like a shortcut, right? It connects stages and it allows you to go from really your design ideas to everyone else. And I think that's a really, really important thing, not only for BIM, but the whole process, the whole spectrum of technologies that we can use, which are available and are amazing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. Now, from your point of view, is there anything else that you feel that is important you wanted to cover that we did not touch through my questions?
No, I think the question is relevant. Again, my problem is, of course, the way the location I'm working, you could see the difference, right? You're talking about your challenges going from IFC 2x3 to IFC 4. For me, knowing that a consultant is able to work in IFC at any level is already a great victory. So, of course, it's important for me that to make it clear, right? Because sometimes I wish we could work, in a more developed setup. But I think that, topics that we could have been leaving behind.
You said that you are using Solibri, right? What if the other parties are not, like the structural engineer and MEP guys are using other tools? Then don't you use Navisworks too, or other tool like Common Data Environment, maybe for Clash Control?
Yeah, it happens that most of the cases, this type of process is carried on by all the party. That is not us. In our case, it happened that sometimes we really had the responsibility. I don't know. I think the client wanted us to really, really, let's say, have a, how do you say, like I don't know, a second opinion, but make sure that our design was clash free from our side, which is something you can only guarantee when you really say, okay, if you want me to do that, I need all the consultants to allow me to check what's happening. So that's when we already jump into Solibri. But of course, then you need to work in IFC, and when that happens, we tell the client, we say, look, we can do it if the consultants are willing to work in OpenBIM. That's when we can do it.
Yeah. Okay. What about BIM mandates in Southeast Asia? Are there any countries that you feel that have adopted any BIM mandates at a national level?
Yeah, for example, Hong Kong and Singapore have very developed BIM mandates. Actually, Singapore has a very developed system in place for the government to accept submissions using BIM. They accept Revit, ArchiCAD, I think also Tekla, but they accept proprietary format because it helps in many things, but they also mandate the submission digital, what they call the digital delivery in OpenBIM, and they have a really great set of rules and standards in place. In Hong Kong, the government is pushing for it, although I think the private industry is still really, really, as I said, hard to move into something that is not Revit, which again is it's a pity. But still, there's really, really great cases, and that's really interesting. Yeah, apart from Hong Kong and Singapore, that I think that the most developed countries in terms of the standards and the way they implement and promote BIM and OpenBIM. In Japan, it's very interesting. It's a country, in that sense, I think reminds me to Germany in the sense that even if the government doesn't have really, really strong, as the country's standards for the use of BIM, the users have adopted BIM for a very long time, and they have really great expertise at different levels. So I would say that the user is the one pushing the agenda, which is great. And then, as I was saying, from Graphisoft, working on the region, I had to involve our partners in Thailand, Vietnam, Philippines. It's very interesting to see at the end, the governments, they are starting to do, very little, little by little, some very basic mandates. The universities are starting to teach the students because they realize that it's really important. And then is when you see in every country really fantastic case studies, of really being champions. In the case of Philippines, you have really great companies. In Vietnam, Vietnam has really great companies that are these famous BPOs that they develop. They're like the BIM manpower for countries like Australia. So you have really, really great cases. So in every country, things are happening. And I think it's really interesting to get involved and see the challenges in each country, right? Because in these countries, when people really go to adopt this technology, that is not cheap, they really make use of it. It's not for, how you say, look good and be involved in comparison to the other. They really need to make it profitable. So you can really see great case studies there. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for anyone using ArchiCAD but not using OpenBIM, not exporting to IFC? Do you have any advice if they would like to start on this path, how to make it as easy as possible?
Yeah, well, Graphisoft has a really great set of free training in how to use the OpenBIM translators and tools that it has. So I think that is really easy for anyone using ArchiCAD that at any level they have any requirement to use OpenBIM, but also they want maybe to be able to achieve work with, all the projects where they were left out because maybe they were not using the tool that it was supposed to be. They were requiring. I think that push for OpenBIM and remind everyone involved in the conversation that is the way we need to move forward. I think they're in a great position because usually what happens is that, and it's very fun, those that need more help when you want to really, let's say, create a smooth workflow using BIM, the funny enough is those using Autodesk solutions are those with more problems to work with OpenBIM. In terms of limitations and not that big flexibility. Users that are using any other BIM solution, they I don't know. I see they have really, I would say, they're better equipped, with tools. In that sense, Autodesk I think has a really big subject still to improve those things, but there are ways to navigate around it. And actually, you can have it can be even a nice story throughout the project when you engage with the engineers and then they start to try new things and then they find ways to collaborate and then they realize, wow, we can really overcome the difficulties, we can make it smoother. Just as an anecdote, I remember in a project in Middle East, it was really in a crazy, super fast pace. I remember I was working with two of my colleagues inside the engineer's office for 2 months because there was no time. It was a project that was supposed to last 9 months before start construction. In 3 months, the contractors were already bidding and the client wanted to work in BIM. And they said, look, it's impossible to do the design and do it in BIM. And we said, look, we do our design in BIM from the beginning, right? So for us, not a problem. And I was sending IFCs. I think sometimes I had the ArchiCAD running, exporting IFCs every 2 hours. And the engineers, the head of engineers, they were really coming to my desk and say, dude, you're crazy, man. It takes us 3 or 4 hours to bring any of your IFCs into Revit. And I said, look, let's break it down. Let's make a strategy. So I bring typical floors. I bring these parts. I sit down with the BIM manager. We make it work. It was now 30 minutes to import, blah, blah, blah. And it was like there was always someone in the team. And in my case, it was me. My computer was designing in the project. And in the other instance of ArchiCAD, inside the same computer, I was just exporting. And we had a continuous loop of them. We put the IFC in place. We're sending it to Navisworks. We're doing clashes. And we're opening your IFC that you just export 1 hour ago. So it was a really full cycle, and it was really amazing how they really improved from saying it's not gonna work to say it's working. And we're really happy that now we have this capability. We can work in IFC in a much faster way than we ever thought. And it's making, we can navigate through the model in front of the client on the screen, having the most updated information and in a project that is going at crazy speed. So you can really achieve incredible milestones when you implement, the right way to work. And in our industry, I think is the OpenBIM is one of the musts without any doubt.
Yeah, that sounds good. You'd be surprised. Many would be surprised, yeah, by this. Do you have a message for anyone watching or listening to this?
Yes, we need to choose the tools we use, not because somebody else used them, not because are the most common, but because it's the best for us. One of the reasons why our industry is one of the less efficient, the less sustainable, is because we are super lazy implementing technology. Really, really lazy. We're always fighting against each other. And nowadays, is through technology the only way we're really going to get something done. So if we live in now, this technology has ArchiCAD was released more than 40 years ago. Okay, we should really throw away CAD at all levels. I'm sorry, but in that sense, you cannot keep using. Nowadays nobody consider having, light your house with light bulbs and use still fire just in case, because light bulbs are not completely reliable. We'll have candles, of course, but you just don't go at home and say, hey, turn on the candles just in case electricity doesn't work. No, once you move into technology, you need to really go through with it, and you need to really embrace the risk. And our industry is not really embracing the risk. It's not really investing in research, and we're not really strong enough. We have a responsibility, and it's not about having an additional value. If you're, as we were saying, I think BIM is starting slowly to become the past. AI is going to bring something that is going to disrupt everything, but if we cannot have our projects built virtually before they're built physically, there's not much to do. We're not really doing our homework.
A strong message.
Yeah, I think it's more than encourage people. I like to tell people, sorry, man, you are late. We need to speed up. We are late. We have something to do. Come on.
Yeah, I like that. How can people reach out to you if they would like to send you a message, or I don't know?
Through LinkedIn. I'm always active, and always trying to learn as much as I can from channels like the BIMvoice, Dion Malt, and all the big experts there. So yeah, LinkedIn, my email, I can also share with you, and you can make it available through NSM website. We also can communicate through there. Always happy to talk, happy to share.
Awesome, Eugenio. Thank you very much for this chat. I really enjoyed it. It was cool to learn some new things from somebody using ArchiCAD and from that part of the world where I don't know too much about regarding BIM, at least.
You should come and visit, man. Just come and visit Hong Kong. Show around. It's beautiful.
I should. I never visited South Asia, but I have some countries on my list. Not Hong Kong, but I don't know. Maybe now you'll get it closer. I'm thinking about Malaysia and Vietnam and Thailand and so on, but maybe a tour for more countries.
When I say Hong Kong, because you have to stop over somehow. But come on, Southeast Asia is beautiful, man. You're gonna come here, you want it or not. So just let me know.
Yeah, sure thing. Thank you very much. We stay in touch.
Thank you, Petru. Thank you very much.